rookie quarterback walks into an NFL meeting room full of hardened veterans. And within minutes, everything explodes. Not literally, but close. What happened behind those closed doors wasn't hazing. It wasn't rookie jokes or playful ribbing. According to multiple sources, it was full-blown confrontation. Loud, intense, and personal. The kind of moment that can define a career before it even starts. The rookie? Shedeur Sanders, son of Deion Primetime Sanders. A name that echoes through football history. But this story isn't about his father. It's about a young quarterback who refused to bow down to tradition and may have set off a cultural war inside an NFL locker room. Veteran players weren't just surprised, they were furious. Coaches were forced to intervene, and media veterans like Eisen, who've seen just about everything the league has to offer, were left speechless. Eisen called it war, not football. I've never seen anything like it, but this is more than a clash of personalities. It's old school versus new school, legacy versus locker room politics, confidence versus code. And depending on how this plays out, Shedeur Sanders might either revolutionize the quarterback position or self-destruct under the pressure. And what happened next? That's where things get wild. When your last name is Sanders, the expectations aren't just high, they're historic. Shedeur Sanders didn't choose the spotlight. He was born into it. His father, Deion Primetime Sanders, isn't just a football icon. He's a cultural force, a Hall of Famer, a two-sport phenom, a man who turned swagger into a brand and dominance into legacy. For most kids, that would be a dream. For Shedeur, it's a shadow that follows him everywhere he goes. From high school to college, every snap he took came with whispers. He's only getting this chance because of his dad. But Shedeur never leaned on the name. He built his own path, putting up huge numbers, earning accolades, and proving time and time again that the talent was real. Still, the comparisons never stopped. And now, entering the NFL, they've only intensified. Every veteran he meets already knows his story. Every coach expects something exceptional. And every mistake, it's magnified tenfold. Because when your father redefined what greatness looks like, you don't get the luxury of being just good. You either live up to the legacy or get crushed by it. And Shedeur, he's made one thing clear. He's not here to live in anyone's shadow, even his father's. But in the NFL, confidence can look a lot like arrogance. And not everyone's impressed. It was supposed to be just another routine meeting. Day 3 of training camp. Players filed into the room. Veterans with years under their belts. Pro Bowlers, Super Bowl champs. Guys who had fought tooth and nail for their place in the league. Everyone expected the usual. Film breakdowns, formation talk, playbook review. Just another day in the grind. Then Shedeur Sanders walked in. The energy shifted instantly. Not because he said anything, at least not yet, but because of what he represented. A 21-year-old rookie with 0 NFL snaps, carrying the last name Sanders like it was a crown. Some players nodded, others stayed stone-faced. The tension? You could cut it with a blade. And then it happened. A throwaway comment from a vet, something about paying dues and respecting the process. It was nothing new. Every rookie hears it. Most nod along, take their lumps, and move on. But Shedeur didn't nod. He didn't flinch. Instead, he spoke up, and what he said would ignite a firestorm. "I've been earning my stripes my whole life," he reportedly said. "I'm not here to kiss anyone's ring." The room fell silent. Veterans stiffened. Coaches looked around, stunned. And in that moment, the meeting stopped being about football and started becoming something else entirely. At first, it seemed like the tension might blow over. Maybe it was just a rookie testing boundaries. Maybe the vets would brush it off. But that one line, "I'm not here to kiss anyone's ring," hit harder than anyone expected. One veteran linebacker, who spent nearly a decade in the league, stood up and fired back. You think because your daddy was primetime, you get to skip the line? His voice reportedly echoed through the room. Other players began to stir. Murmurs turned into sharp words, and the atmosphere turned electric. But Shedeur? He didn't blink. Instead, he doubled down. "My dad taught me never to back down from anyone," he said calmly, "and I'm not starting now." That was it, the breaking point. Players stood up. Coaches rushed to get between the sides. The meeting descended into chaos. Not fists flying, but voices raised, egos clashing, and the raw emotion of a locker room boiling over. Some players were stunned. Others were furious. Everyone knew this wasn't normal. It wasn't about schemes anymore. It wasn't about depth charts. It was about identity, power, respect. And in the middle of it all stood a rookie who didn't just break the unspoken rules. He set them on fire. Once the meeting blew up, there was no putting the lid back on. The message was clear. Shedeur Sanders wasn't going to play the quiet rookie, but the veterans weren't letting it slide. One safety, a respected team leader with 8 seasons under his belt, stood up and didn't hold back. "You think just 'cause your daddy was primetime, you can walk in here and disrespect us?" he snapped. His voice didn't shake, it cut. But Shedeur met him right in the eyes. "I'm not disrespecting anybody," he reportedly said. "I'm just not gonna pretend like I haven't earned this. I've been grinding since day one." No apologies, no backpedaling, just that same unshakable defiance. For many in the room, that was too much. This wasn't just a kid with confidence. This was someone tearing through the unwritten rules of NFL hierarchy. You don't talk back to vets. You don't challenge the pecking order. And you definitely don't throw your last name around like it gives you a free pass. But here was Shedeur, standing tall, saying the quiet part out loud. The room was now officially divided. Some players saw arrogance. Others saw guts. But no one could ignore the shift. Shedeur Sanders hadn't just entered the NFL, he had disrupted it. What happened in that meeting room didn't stay in the meeting room. By the next day, the tension had spread like wildfire through the facility. Players were whispering. Coaches were holding closed-door conversations. And Shedeur? He walked into practice with the same confidence he'd shown the night before, like nothing had changed. But everything had. Veteran players began testing him hard, not just with words, but with actions. During drills, defensive players ramped up the pressure. Play after play, they blitzed harder, hit faster, barked louder. It was more than competition. It was personal now. And the comments? They weren't subtle anymore. "You'll never be your dad. You haven't done anything yet. You don't belong here." Some of it crossed the line. One offensive player described it as brutal, saying the defense was trying to break Shedeur mentally, not just beat him on the field. This wasn't hazing, it was a message. You're not special here. But Shedeur didn't back down. He didn't lash out or play victim. He kept throwing, kept leading, kept showing up. If the meeting was the spark, this was the fire starting to spread. Everyone was waiting to see if Shedeur would fold under the pressure. Instead, he did something no one expected. It happened during a passing drill, one of those routine sessions designed to build rhythm between the quarterback and his receivers. But this one wasn't routine. Not anymore. From the moment Shedeur took the field, the defense was in his ear. Trash talk, jabs, constant pressure. And it wasn't just competitive banter. It was personal. They mocked his last name, questioned his toughness, even brought up his father. Every word was meant to rattle him, break him, expose him. And for a moment, it looked like it might be working. Shedeur paused, hands on his hips, staring across the line of scrimmage. You could feel the tension rising. The air was thick with it. Then he stepped forward, looked straight at the defense, and said it. You want to make this personal? Let's make it personal. But remember, I'm not going anywhere. Silence. Then, like a switch flipped, he resumed the drill. Lasers over the middle. Perfect timing routes. Threading throws under pressure. The same guys who were heckling him seconds ago were now chasing shadows. It wasn't just skill. It was composure, control, the kind of poise you don't see from rookies. Rich Eisen, when told about this moment, could barely believe it. Most rookies shrink under that kind of heat, he said. But this kid, he stepped into it. And that's when everything changed. For all the drama off the field, what Shedeur Sanders did on it is what really turned heads. Despite the verbal warfare, the locker room tension, and the pressure mounting from every direction, Shedeur didn't flinch. He delivered, over and over again. His completion percentage in training camp, among the best on the roster. Coaches tracking film said his decision-making under pressure was shockingly advanced for a rookie. And in 2-minute drills, the ones that separate guys who talk from guys who lead, he was cold-blooded. Even players who had clashed with him started to take notice. One veteran defensive back, who had been part of the original meeting room explosion, admitted, "I still think the kid needs to learn some respect. But I can't lie, he's making throws most rookies wouldn't even try, and they're landing." What started as defiance was beginning to look like dominance. This wasn't just about attitude anymore. Shedeur wasn't just surviving the pressure, he was thriving in it, turning hostile energy into fuel, using every insult as focus. And that's what shook the team to its core. Because in the NFL, talent usually speaks for itself. But when talent comes wrapped in controversy, the locker room doesn't just watch, it judges. And slowly, Shedeur was starting to flip the verdict. As Shedeur Sanders kept delivering on the field, something strange started happening. The locker room began to split in two. On one side were the traditionalists, the veterans who had spent years grinding through the NFL system. To them, what Shedeur represented was dangerous, not because he couldn't play, but because he refused to wait his turn. They saw arrogance, not leadership, flash, not substance, and they worried it could unravel everything they'd built. One Pro Bowl defensive end put it bluntly, "There's a way things are done. You earn it. You shut up, you grind, and eventually you lead." If everyone skips that step, what happens to the foundation? But not everyone saw it that way. A growing number of younger players, and even a few coaches, started seeing Shedeur's fire as a strength, not a threat. They saw a quarterback who refused to back down, even when surrounded by pressure from every direction. And they respected that. "He's not afraid to lead," one assistant coach said. "You don't teach that." Now the staff is divided. Some want to rein him in, teach him the NFL code. Others think that breaking his spirit could cost them the one thing every franchise dreams of: a fearless, franchise-caliber quarterback. Either way, it's a balancing act on a razor's edge. And the season hasn't even started yet. What started as a locker room clash has now turned into something much bigger: a generational standoff. Veterans say it's about respect, about following a code. But to younger players, that code feels more like a cage. And Shedeur Sanders, he's become the lightning rod for both sides. Rich Eisen said it best: "This isn't just a rookie making noise. This is a challenge to how the league operates." For decades, the NFL has run on hierarchy. Rookies stay quiet. Veterans lead. You pay your dues before you speak. But Shedeur flipped that script and forced the entire organization to look in the mirror. Because let's be real, how many future stars have been crushed by outdated systems? How many players with real confidence and creativity were told to fall in line until the fire in them dimmed? Maybe what looks like disrespect is actually evolution. Still, that doesn't make the vets wrong. Team chemistry isn't optional. Culture matters. If every player acts like they're the main character, the whole thing collapses. That's what makes this so volatile. Shedeur isn't just fighting for his role. He's forcing a conversation the NFL has been avoiding for years. Do we keep doing things the old way? Or is it time to change? Whichever path wins out, this clash has already reshaped the team, and maybe the league. The meeting room clash? That was just the beginning. Sources say another confrontation is already brewing, this time involving team captains and reportedly upper management. It's no longer just players testing a rookie. Now it's the entire organization wrestling with one question. What do you do with a quarterback who refuses to follow the rules, but keeps proving he might be the future? Some coaches want to sit him down, teach him the right way. Others believe that trying to reshape him might crush the exact fire that makes him special. One insider put it bluntly, we're either looking at the next big thing or the biggest implosion this team's ever seen. And that's the real story here. This isn't just about Shedeur Sanders. It's about something bigger. It's about a generation of athletes who aren't waiting for permission to lead. It's about a league that's changing whether it wants to or not. It's about the tension between earning respect and demanding it, and whether one path is more valid than the other. So where does that leave this team? On the edge. With training camp still unfolding, the locker room remains divided, the coaching staff cautious, and the pressure mounting. Every practice rep feels heavier now. Every word, every glance, every snap, it all carries weight. And for Shedeur Sanders, the spotlight isn't going anywhere. He might be the most talked about rookie in football, not because of a viral highlight, but because he forced a reckoning inside a league that rarely changes without a fight. Eisen said it best, "I've never seen anything like this, because we've never been at a moment like this. So now, it's your turn." Is Shedeur Sanders a trailblazer who's challenging an outdated culture? Or is he just another overconfident rookie who needs to learn where he stands? Can this team overcome the divide, or will this confrontation tear them apart before the season even begins? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because this story, it's far from over.